Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Okay, let's get after it. We must all agree no one has ever seen anything like what we saw in the Oval Office today. And yet, there are wildly different interpretations of what happened. I mean, we all witnessed the same scenario, right? We all heard the same uncomfortable scuffle, right? So, was it awesome and empowering America first, or absurd and embarrassing America at its worst? Seems everything is a Rorschach test these days, seen through the lens of party preference. But for me, the main point is that for all the outrage on all our phones and screens right now, I'm not sure if we know that anything has really changed. How crazy is that? Maybe not so much in the age of Trump. It does seem our political life is now like Shakespeare's famous jab at how life is often everything and nothing at once in Macbeth. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Let's look at the flashpoints of today and try to get with the better minds to see what it all means for what happens next. The first sign that this was not going to be as expected was the vice president, who's been a ghost since the administration started, now in full effect and clearly not a friend to Ukraine or Zelensky.
The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get why the president had Jay do this, except obviously he was there to play bad cop. Now look, trusting Putin is something without precedent of success for America. Think about it. Has he ever been an ally on everything? Anything? As a matter of fact, he did renege on the Minsk agreement, and I lived how it happened. Separatist plants working for Putin starting attacks in eastern Ukraine. Putin then used those provocations as proof that the Minsk deal hadn't held and then invaded. That's me. Before all the drama. That's what I used to look like. And I know there are different versions of events, but I'm telling you where I was standing in Donetsk, Ukraine at that time when they shot that plane down, there were all these Russian separatists and intel officers working for Putin, okay? And they even had a guy there claiming to be the leader of the province of Donetsk, which does not exist as a standalone. I interviewed the guy. He went by the name Borowski, but he worked for Putin. It was all a plan. So, you know, JD is missing the history here, all right? But the vice president was also told he had a role here to take it to Zelensky, like this was some fringe podcast debating the state of the Ukraine military.
You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories. And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
Now look, right there, it was over, right? And there's got to be shared blame. Again, I don't know why this was JD's show. No disrespect to the VP, but it's not his portfolio, right? This was supposed to be about the president and Zelensky. So this was clearly some kind of plan. And look, Zelensky is going to have to account for where he was. He was here asking for help, all right? And I'm sure this wasn't what he expected, but he didn't really go with it in a way that made anything better, right? So You can tell from everything about this, Zelenskyy did not think this was about whether the U.S. was going to be in or out, but that's what it clearly became, right? And then the vice president and the president were both playing bad cop. And this was not the commitment ceremony we thought it was, with the deal signing, and here's what we're going to do, we got to try to end this. It was an airing of grievances. And it certainly seemed like Zelenskyy saw this as an ambush and acted that way. And multiple accounts say that Ukraine, his people, the people who were there, the people who were more than happy to leave afterwards, saw this as an ambush.
You have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Look, this is an entirely new American posture, okay? Just, again, to the extent that the facts matter, Zelenskyy never did a campaign event with Biden or Kamala Harris, okay? It's the phone call that Trump had with Zelenskyy that led to him getting impeached. That's what they're still pissed about, all right? And yes, he did, Zelenskyy, visit a munitions factory in Pennsylvania, but so what? Then we got insight into how Zelenskyy really feels when he expressed his frustration that it's only Ukrainians dying in the war against Russia, and then Trump responded in kind.
From the very beginning of the war, we've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days.
Trump's not wrong. If not for America's help and Europe's help, but America's help, Ukraine would have been up against it. But let's not forget how it started, because Zelensky's not wrong either. You know, what's so weird is that these people were supposed to be figuring it out as opposed to us having to figure it out for them. But look, everybody's heard Zelenskyy say thank you to America. All right? He said it to me in an interview. I've watched him say it to others in person. Okay? And he's not wrong that Ukraine isn't just fighting for them, because there's no real reason to believe that Putin only wants to stop NATO expansion this one time in this one country, right? And I don't know why, maybe somebody will help me understand this tonight. Why isn't the truth enough for our president? We've given them $175 billion. Why isn't that enough? Why does he have to say Congress appropriated $350 billion? It's half that. Why? Why does he have to say it that way? Many experts thought Ukraine, look, we all lived it together, right? You watched how the Ukraine war started. One of our guests tonight did a documentary about it that wound up being very well received because he was actually there when the war started. Everybody thought it was going to fall. It'd be just a matter of days. Their ability to fight off Russia was so impressive that it changed the opinion here at home and in Europe. I actually flew there on my own dime because I wanted to see what was going on there and cover it. Remember, I'd been fired. I didn't have a job. I was home. So that's when the aid started coming in. They were alone. And we're not doing what Russia is. Russia has North Korea with their back now. We don't have American fighters on the ground. You don't have European fighters on the ground. My question is, after all of this sound and fury, is peace any closer? I mean, what was the point of this? We know Putin loved it because he had his puppet leader in Russia tweet as much, Medvedev. And that's what Vance seemed to be hinting at in his next salvo.
Say thank you, except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on. I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
It's not great television, because the whole point is for the war to end. And I don't know how anything that just happened here helps that happen. And yes, he gave javelins, Obama didn't. It's true. Trump gave Ukraine javelins. Now, after this, Zelenskyy goes and does, out of the frying pan into the fire. Not exactly. But, he went to Fox News, which is Trump land. And obviously Zelenskyy was there and not here with any other outlet is because he was trying. This was designed to do the right thing by Trump. That's why you go to Fox, right? And here's what he said.
I'm not hearing from you, Mr. President, a thought that you owe the president an apology.
No, I respect the president and I respect American people. And if, I think that we have to be very open and very honest. And I'm not sure that we did something bad.
If he had the opportunity to go back to the White House right now, would you do it?
No. First of all, we want peace. That's why I'm in the United States. It will be difficult without your support, but we can't lose our values, our people. We can't lose our freedom.
You have to admit, it's a little weird that the guy's doing an interview with what's supposed to be a fair broker in the media, and it's like he's talking to a representative of the administration. I don't hear an apology. Really? Is that what the media is supposed to be asking of the head of Ukraine? About how he feels about how he treated Trump? So, what's the reaction? It's horrible. Everywhere, okay? The left is horrified, okay? MAGA is overjoyed, okay? Trump stuck it to Ukraine. Only problem is, I thought Ukraine was the ally. It's not just that Ukraine and America are more divided now, but once again, this just examined that we are not together in this country. No way. We are not five fingers going into a fist when confronted. Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.